All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the one language that makes pretty much the entire modern web tick, JavaScript. It's the engine that takes a flat, static page and turns it into the dynamic, interactive experience we use every single day. So, let's get into it.
You ever stop and think about that? You click a button and a menu just slides out. Or you're filling out a form and it tells you there's an error before you even hit submit. You scroll down and new stuff just magically appears. Well, that's not your basic HTML or CSS. Something else is going on there. So, what is it?
And the answer, the secret ingredient really, is JavaScript. It is the language of the web browser. It's the code that basically gives a website a brain, allowing it to react to you, the user. It's what turns a static document into a living, breathing application.
Okay, so to really get how JavaScript works its magic, we have to start with the absolute fundamentals. I mean, you can't build a house without bricks and mortar, right? Well, in programming, that means we need a way to store and label information first. And that brings us to our very first key concept, the variable. Honestly, the absolute best way to think about a variable is just as a simple labeled box. You put something inside it, you give it a name so you can find it later, and that's literally it. It's just a container for data.
So, how do we make these boxes? Well, we use special keywords. If you have a box where the contents might change, think of a score in a game, you use let. For something that should never change, like say a birthday, you use const for constant. You'll probably see var in older code, but for anything you're building today, let and const are what you're going to reach for every time.
So, what kind of stuff can we actually put in these boxes? Well, a few main types cover most of it. If you're storing text, like a name, that's called a string. If it's a number, well, that's easy. It's a number. And if you're storing a simple yes or no, an on or off kind of value, that's called a Boolean. It can only ever be true or false.
Okay, so we've got our boxes of information. Now what? I mean, just storing stuff is kind of boring. We need to do things with it. We need our code to be able to think, to compare things, to do math. And for all that, we need operators.
Now, listen up, because this one trips up almost every single new developer. Let's say you want to check if two boxes have the same thing in them. The double equals is loose. It'll look at the number 7 and the text 7 and say, close enough, they're the same. But the triple equals is strict. It checks not just the value, but also the type of data. It knows a number is not the same as a piece of text, so it says, nope, definitely not the same. In modern JavaScript, you pretty much always want to use the strict triple equals.
And of course, there are a ton of others. The plus sign can add numbers or it can stick pieces of text together. The double ampersand and checks if two things are true at the same time, like is the user logged in and are they an admin? The greater than symbol is, well, it's exactly what it looks like. And the exclamation mark, the logical not, is a fun one. It just flips a Boolean. So if you put it in front of true, it becomes false.
All right, enough theory. We have variables for storing data, and we have operators for making decisions with it. Now let's see how these pieces actually come together to build something interactive. This is where the magic really starts to happen.
At its heart, web interaction is a really simple three-step dance. First, an event happens. Let's say you click a button. The browser is listening for that click. Second, that event triggers a piece of our JavaScript code to run. And third, our code updates the page, maybe by changing some text somewhere. That's the whole loop. Event, code, update. So let's build a quick example. First up, we need our data. So we'll declare two variables using let. We'll make one called first name and store the text push pendra in it. In the second, last name, we'll store Tripathi. Okay, our raw materials are ready to go.
Now back in the day, we would have had to smash these together with a bunch of clunky plus signs. It was messy. But modern JavaScript gives us a much cleaner and more elegant way to build new text from our variables. And here it is. This is brilliant. Look at that. Instead of normal quotes, we're using those little backticks. This lets us create a special kind of string where we can just drop our variables right inside, as long as we wrap them with a $ and curly braces. The whole thing is just one clean, readable line of code.
This awesome feature has a name. It's called a template literal. And this is the workhorse of the modern dynamic web. Seriously, anytime you see a website greet you personally, like welcome John, you can bet something just like this is happening behind the scenes. It's simple, it's powerful, and it's so much easier to read.
So what we just saw is the core idea of JavaScript in action. But that's really just the tip of the iceberg. The language comes with this huge built-in library of tools to help you do almost anything you can think of. Let's just take a quick peek. So take text, for instance. JavaScript gives you dozens of these built-in helpers, they're called methods, to work with them. As you can see, there's a tool for just about anything. Need to chop a piece out of some text? That's .slice. Want to make it all caps? .uppercase. You don't have to build this stuff yourself. It's already there, waiting for you.
And it's the exact same story for lists of data, which in JavaScript are called arrays. Need to manage a bunch of items? No problem. You can add an item to the end of the list with .push, or take the last one off with .pop. You can sort the whole list with .sort. In fact, there are over 30 of these pre-built tools just for handling arrays.
And finally, maybe one of the most important tools of all, how do you see what your code is even doing while it's running? For that, you use the console. Think of it like a little window into the brain of your program. Console.log is every developer's best friend. It just prints out whatever you ask it to. But you can also log specific errors or warnings, or even display your data in a nice, clean table. It is your #1 tool for finding and fixing bugs. You know, looking at all these lists can feel a bit overwhelming. But here's the secret. Nobody memorizes all of them. The real skill is just knowing that this massive toolbox exists. So when you have a problem, you have a gut feeling that, hey, JavaScript probably has a tool for this already.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. We started with a pretty simple question. What makes a web page do stuff? And now you know the secret. It's JavaScript. It's that combination of storing information in variables, using operators to make decisions, and then using events, like a simple click, to trigger code that changes what you see on the screen. That is the fundamental loop that gives a static page a voice.
You now understand the core principle that powers every single interactive website you've ever used. JavaScript is the language that gives the web its voice. So the only real question left is, what are you going to make it say? That's all for this explainer.